In this lesson, I'm going to teach you how to install your first tag with Google Tag Manager, and we're actually going to talk a little bit about migration of existing tags on your website to Google Tag Manager. All and more coming up right after this. Hi there, and welcome to another video of measureschool.com, where we teach you the data-driven way of digital marketing. My name is Julian, and in the last lesson we discovered how Google Tag Manager fits into our organization. Now in this lesson we're going to get into the little bit more nitty-gritty stuff of actually installing our first tags and taking advantage of the migration from the hard-coded tags that you might have on your site to Google Tag Manager. But before we get started, as always, if you want to test your knowledge after this video, head over to measureschool.com/lesson4, where you find a little bit of a quiz that you can go through, and upon submission we'll send you more resources. We got lots to cover, so let's dive in. Alright, this time we'll start out by talking about processes. It's very important that you integrate a tag deployment into the processes that you have within the company. We talked about this already in the last lesson. Now in this lesson, we're going to take a look at such a process that is advisable to follow when doing a tag deployment. And a tag deployment process really consists of 4 steps. The first step being planning and preparing your implementation. And this is particularly true if you are planning on deploying many different tags or migrating any kind of tags over to Google Tag Manager. This step will help you to think through your implementation, give you a little bit of a documentation outside of what Google Tag Manager provides, and also prepare you for step number 3 when we're actually gonna QA our implementation. Now, once you have a solid plan established, you would start implementing this into Google Tag Manager. And this really goes into the nitty-gritty of deploying a tag within the interface of Google Tag Manager. Once you're done with this, it's important to test and debug your implementation to get rid of any mistakes, see if the marketing vendor actually gets the right data, and compare the tag implementation with your previously prepared plan in order to prepare your implementation for the last step, which is then deploying your tags to the website or publishing them so they actually record real data from real users visiting your website. So let's get into our first real tag deployment, going through these steps. Back at our demo stop, we want to go through the first tag deployment in this course, and we're going to follow the steps that we have outlined. So first of all would be drafting a solid plan and preparing our implementation. So what do we actually want to do in this example? Well, we want to migrate our Google Analytics tag over to Google Tag Manager. Now we have already Google Tag Manager installed, as we can see here in our Tag Assistant by Google. That's an extension that you can download to your Chrome browser. And we have here the green light that Google Tag Manager is installed correctly. Now we also see a Google Analytics tag that is installed. And once we click on that, we can actually look into the code snippet. And we also have an option here to view the source. So we can actually see how Google Analytics is installed on this page. And we see that there's a Google Analytics code right here, which means that Google Analytics at the moment is not yet deployed through Google Tag Manager, but has its own code snippet on the actual HTML of our website. So this is one of these things that you might want to record and take notice of, especially if you want to do a bigger tag migration. You would need to go through all the tags that are installed on your website and figure out how to migrate them over to Google Tag Manager. Now that we have a pretty good overview on what tags are currently installed on our website, we would need to prepare a plan where we think things through in order to start our tag migration. And we have a little bit of a template prepared for you that you can check out at measureschool.com/tagplan, which will give you a little bit of a structure with examples here to plan out your integration. So you would have here a tag name, description, where it should be deployed, and the configurations. Once you have this all prepared, you're ready to go into Google Tag Manager and input that as the configurations. But this makes a lot of sense, especially if you have multiple tags that you want to install. So we have templates here for Google Analytics event tracking, conversion tracking. So you could expand that to fit your tag implementation, and it will give you a great overview later on to see which tags are installed and why they are installed. So in our case here, let's get rid of these examples here. We would say we want to deploy a Google Analytics tag. And this will be a general page view tracking tag. And it's going to be deployed on all pages. This is the name that I will also use for our Google Tag Manager later on. And you see it's in a certain format that lets me recognize the tag very fast, especially when I have multiple tags in Google Tag Manager. The description of this would be a general page view tag that should be deployed on all the sites of demoshop.com. And the configurations are nothing special here. We just need to make sure that we are sending this data to the right account. So I'm going to go over to my Google Analytics, look into the admin section and find out what is our Google Analytics ID. Go to the tracking information here. Here we have the tracking ID. That's something I'm going to copy and paste into my sheet as well. So we have the general information available before we even go into Google Tag Manager, and we can do our tag deployment faster and more efficient. And I would recommend to do this for every tag that you deploy. All right, let's go to the next step, the implementation step. We would actually go over to Google Tag Manager, search for our account, and start deploying our first tag. We can go ahead and go onto the tag menu here and create a new tag. Now again, we'll enter a name here. I would suggest that you have a naming convention that you follow in order to find your tags faster in the account later. So in our case, we have the product name, we have the general purpose or the description, and the trigger that is attached to it. Now there could be extra information attached, especially if you have multiple general page view tags. In the next step, you're going to choose the product. This in our case is Google Analytics. And we are using the Universal Analytics version of Google Analytics. Click here on Continue. And then we need to configure the tag. There are multiple configurations, but the important thing that we need to fill out is the tracking ID, which we as well have prepared in our sheet here. So we can copy paste that in. Now there are a lot of different other configurations that you could choose. In our case, we just want to have the normal tracking capabilities of Google Analytics. So every time somebody visits a page view gets generated in Google Analytics and sent to this tracking ID. So that does it for now. And the next step, we need to configure the fire on option. This is really the rule that governs whether our tag should be deployed or not. In our case, we want to deploy it on all the pages of our website, so we can go with the all pages trigger. We'll get into more triggers in a later lesson. And all we need to do is create this tag. So now we have implemented the tag, but before we simply publish this to all our users, we want to make sure it actually works. So how do we do this? We can go into the special preview and debug mode, which is available under the publish menu here when clicking on preview. This will put our browser and only our browser into a special mode that lets us see debug information on the actual website. So once we are in this debug mode, we can go back to our demo shop, reload our demo shop, and we see our debug console open. Now in this debug console, we can automatically see which tags have fired on this page. And in our case, it's the Google Analytics general page view tag. So this tag was deployed and data was sent to the marketing vendor. How can we make sure that it's actually true? Well, in some cases, there are special extensions like the Tag Assistant for the Google products. and we can see that a Google Analytics tag was deployed, but we get a warning because we are actually tracking twice. As you might know, we still have the hard-coded version of Google Analytics in our HTML code, and now we are deploying it a second time through Google Tag Manager. And this is expected because right now we have it 2 times installed. You can click on this to page view here and see whether there's any factual difference between these 2 page views, but really there isn't. And this shows us that our page view tag actually works the same as the hard-coded version. Now this is just an extension that tells us some data here. What we really ought to check is whether our data is received by the actual marketing vendor. So in our case, Google Analytics. So let's go over to Google Analytics and actually go into the reporting menu here and go onto the real-time reporting. Once we reload this page here, we see that there's a new page view generated. Actually 2 page views generated because we still have the hard-coded version on our page. So this lets me see that our page view tag is working correctly and we are ready for the actual tag deployment. Now in our case, we are doing something special here because we are doing an actual tag migration and we don't want our page view tag to fire twice. So once we deploy this tag, we actually need to make sure our hard-coded version is removed from the website so the page view tag doesn't fire twice. So let's go ahead and remove our hard-coded Google Analytics script. This might differ from your implementation. I have built it right into our theme, so I just need to delete it from our theme file. And we have the Google Analytics script right here. Now I'm going to delete this section, and before I update the file, I'm actually going to deploy our Google Analytics tag through Google Tag Manager. So we're going to go on this publish button, publish this as a version to all our users, and at the same time remove our Google Analytics code snippet. So now Google Analytics should be deployed solely through Google Tag Manager. You can of course look into our preview and debug console again on our actual page. It will tell us that Google Analytics is deployed, and when we look into our Tag Assistant, you see that this time there's only one Google Analytics page view generated. And this version is now live to all our users, so we are actually collecting real data with Google Tag Manager and Google Analytics. In the end, you can of course leave the preview mode on your browser and check the whole thing again. And in our Tag Assistant, we still see that we have a page view request generated. So we have successfully moved our Google Analytics script over into Tag Manager and deployed it through our new tag management implementation. And this is how you go through the 4 steps of tag deployment: plan and prepare your implementation, implement your tag with Google Tag Manager, preview and debug it, and then deploy it and publish it so it's live to all your users. So there you have it. Congratulations, you have gone through your first tag deployment and discovered a process on how to migrate your tags over from your website to Google Tag Manager. Now I hope you liked this lesson. Now before you move on, check out our quiz at measureschool.com/lesson4, where we have a little bit of a quiz for you to test your knowledge, and once you submit, we'll send you some more resources. In the next lesson, we're going to discover a really cool feature of Google Tag Manager which makes it really unique, which is the auto event triggers. And this is really all about interaction tracking. So don't miss out on the next level. Go over to the next video and I'll see you there hopefully. My name is Julian. Till next time.